Okay, this is therapy part two. We did two of the approaches on the first slides. Let me get my pen here, and this is the third approach. We'll have three, four, and five. This one's easy peasy. Bad behaviors are learned, just like my dog, tiny dog here, can learn bad behaviors. I can unlearn him from those behaviors, hopefully. One of the good things about this approach is very pragmatic, it's very hands-on and implementable. This is what Cesar Millan uses, and so we can use this with people to retrain their. Okay, so two of the methods are classical and one is operant. You probably don't want to remember all this, but U, C, S, and CS, all that stuff. So the first one, counter conditioning. We mentioned this when we talked about learning, but remember little Albert? We had conditioned or trained him to be afraid of this rat because every time the rat came in, we banged the cymbals. So he had an association, and this guy, CS, became guilty by association. Hopefully you remember this. Now I asked you how we could fix little Albert, and one of the things we could do is switch. Counter is a switch or reverse the UCS. Now if we, let me erase this over here. Now if we make a new connection, he has a positive connection. And this CS is a good guy. And so now we've made him like something that he used to hate. Now in psychology, when they use this, sometimes it's usually you like something already that's bad for you. It's not like little Albert, you hate the rat, we want you to like him. You know what I mean? It's the vice versa, where you already like something and we want you to come over here and hate drinking because you're alcoholic. Okay, so you have a positive association with alcohol, otherwise you wouldn't be alcoholic. But there is this drug antabuse that they give alcoholics, and the idea is every time you drink, if you're not drinking, nothing happens, but as soon as you drink, it's going to make you violently ill. So now you're going to have a negative association with alcohol, and it's going to be kind of like the orange juice in the refrigerator that I talked about before. If none of that makes sense, definitely email me. But the first one is reverse learning. All I do is I switch the UCS from the banging cymbals, right, to something good like an ice cream or vice versa. Here, we're switching it to you throw up to alcohol instead of get a good buzz. And when I switch it, you switch the way you feel about the thing, stimulus. Number two, extinction therapy. When I ask you how to fix little Albert, one of the things I could do is just stop banging the cymbals. He wouldn't make the association. Now, sometimes that relates to people's phobias, which we've talked about. And the first kind of extinction is called flooding. And that's when I directly make you face your fear over and over and over until you're just not scared of it. This would be like taking little Albert and placing him in the room with the rat over and over and over. Of course he's going to be scared at first, but if no banging cymbals come, eventually it will extinguish itself. Now, a more classical approach is implosive therapy, where sometimes this is called systematic desensitization. That's hard to say, but I baby step you up. Oh, I have it on there. A baby step you up to your fear where eventually you get onto the plane. Like, let's just look at pictures of planes. And then we'll drive by the airport. And then maybe I'll walk you through the terminal. And then up to the gate. And then eventually, like, a year down the road, you get on a plane. I just say strip the band aid off. You know what I mean? But a lot of people don't react in a positive way to flooding. You can't just, like, force them to do something. Okay. The next one comes from operant, which I thought was a lot easier. I give you a treat or a punishment. Very easy peasy. Now, I'm going to say if I give him punishments, then you become a bad CS. I'm going to focus on these two in gold because if I focus on these two, I'm giving or taking pain. If you remember the seatbelt buzzer, or give you a whipping, that's the stick. But if I focus on these two, I either give treats or take away treats, then I can still shape the animal because he doesn't get a treat if he's bad, but he gets one if he's good. Cesar Millan kind of works like this with attention, but he's mainly focused on omission training. Okay, the technique. The technique here is called token economies. Token economies, you might have grown up with these. I didn't as a kid. And when I grew up, if you were bad, you got a whipping. That was what it was based on, the stick. You know what I mean? But now it's like if you're bad, you get some of your tokens taken away, or if you're good throughout the day, you earn tokens, and at the end of the day, you can go cash them in. So it's a currency, and so you're modifying your own punishment because you're punishing yourself when you're bad because you won't be able to, like, get your little toy plane up here if you were a bad boy. Instead of hitting kids, you're just working on that previous slide where it's omission training. I'll take away the token or I'll give out the token, which is positive reinforcement. Okay, this is the fourth approach. It's really one of my favorites. I know I said that previously about the humanistic approach, number two, but I like number four as well because it focuses on your head. What are you thinking? What are you feeding your head? Is, I mean, if you're coming to the therapist, if you have good thought patterns, you're probably not there. You know what I mean? You're like me. I have a lot of bad thought patterns, things that I listen to. I could call it the accuser, but I'm not in my religion class. But we'll get to that a little bit later. I call it looping. I tend to loop. I'm very, very OCD, and I get on all these medications, and everybody's like, "Oh, you shouldn't loop." And it's like, but I am a looper. And it's like I don't want to sedate myself so much I don't loop because that's part of my creativity. How I'm a good painter. I loop on my paintings and make them better and better. What I started to think is, what do I feed my head? What do I loop on? If I'm feeding my head a bunch of dark shit, that's why sometimes, even though I want to listen to gangster rap and like heavy metal all the time, it's not good for me. I get real angry. I need to listen to like my EDM and get in a good mood over here. So the idea is just switch, the loop that you're on or whatever your playlist is. Now, I don't know if this is making any sense. It's very simplistic, but this is the example about looping is that in my religion class, I talk a lot about meditation. And people go, "Oh, I'm a bad meditator." And it's like, I don't know. Looping is meditating. And so I started to think about that. It's like, I always say I'm a bad meditator, but I'm a very good meditator. It's just called worry. I can worry something to death for hours and hours and hours. That's being very meditative, contemplative on the wrong thing. And so this is what the Dalai Lama says. If it can be solved, there's no need to worry. It's like, uh-oh. If it can't be solved, worry is of no use. Well, then you just messed up my whole life, Dalai Lama, because that's what I meditate on. But as I started to think about this, I have to think about what I feed my brain. So this comes from indigenous people, not white folk like me, but they say you have two dogs that live in your head when you wake up in the morning, a white wolf and a black wolf. And both want to be fed because they're ravenous and hungry from the night before, and so it's up to you which one to feed. But I tend to feed the dark wolf. What does that mean? Dark thoughts like, "Tim, you're a piece of shit. There's something wrong with you. You're never going to make it. Nobody's going to like you. You're not big enough, strong enough." You know what I'm talking about? I hope not. But I feed him all the time and he gets bigger and bigger. The white wolf wants to have breakfast, but I don't give him breakfast, so he gets smaller and smaller. Now, the trick of life is just switch the dog you're feeding. It's like, damn it. But it's so hard because when I wake up in the morning and I start to try to listen to this dog, he says, "Tim, you are my child. I have plans to rise you up." Jeremiah 29:11. I could go into all these different things about God, but I don't feed that dog. Even though I say believe in God, I don't feed this dog because I think the black dog Satan is right. And I have this quote: "Remember, your dreams are as hungry as your demons." Oh, wee. Tim, which dog are you feeding? Okay, you get my. This comes from AA. I mean, I was in AA for a long time, but whatever. I use medical marijuana now. Y'all know this about me, but I do like a lot of the things out of AA. When I focus on what's good today, I have a good day. And when I focus on what's bad, I have a bad day. If I focus on a problem, the problem gets bigger. Ooh wee. If I focus on the answer increases. This is about faith too. So I love this quote. What are you focusing on? Okay, this slide is about Aaron Beck. He did the Beck depression inventory. I've had to take it a number of times, but anyway, he says depressed people, or he studied how they think. And here's three different thought patterns that he identified. Number one, people like me who are depressed tend to overgeneralize. Little Albert overgeneralized. Everything white and fuzzy was bad. Okay, so all people are bad, or everything is bad. You know what I mean? You just overdo it. It's like one bad thing happens, everything is going to be bad. So you take one bad event and blow it out of proportion. Just like little Albert took that one bad event and blew it out of proportion about the whole world. Number two, we tend to magnify the bad things, Tim, and minimize the good things. A lot of good things happen to you too, Tim. Oh, I just focus on the bad things. I can just focus on one little thread on a shirt and it would be like drive me crazy, and most people will never see it. It's like I love this story. There's a famous speaker. Ironically, he speaks on self-hatred, so I love him. Anyway, he goes around the country, and one time he went and gave a talk, I think, to 1,000 people, and it was on self-hatred. And so the next week he came back to get the 1,000 reviews, and when the lady handed him the 1,000 reviews back, she goes, "Oh, don't worry, I marked the 2 that were negative so you wouldn't have to go and find them." That's me too. 2 people didn't like my talk. I don't care about 998 liked it. 2 people didn't like it, and so I focus on the wrong thing. The third thing I tend to do is take things personally. I always say I'm sorry, even for things that aren't my fault. I'm going, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And when bad things happen, I go, oh, it was because I'm a bad person. It's like, no, bad things happen to good people, Tim, and vice versa is too true. Good things happen to bad people, and so not everything is your fault, and so I have to get out of this mode of thinking. I wish I could go into the 4 agreements right now, but you have to not take things personally is one of the 4 agreements. This is not Aaron Beck, but people who are normally, have good self-esteem engage in something called the self-serving bias. They serve themselves. What does this mean? Well, when they succeed, they take credit. Either I'm smart or I tried hard. If they fail, on the other hand, they go, well, I got unlucky or it was kind of a hard task. And so they pass the buck down here, if that makes sense. Now, this doesn't relate to depressed people. I'm still kind of talking about depression here, if I can get all this crap off of here. But this promotes a positive self-esteem because good things are me and bad things I have an excuse for. I always make a joke. If you do this all the time, you're a good American. You know what I mean? Nothing bad can be because of me. I have an excuse. Self-defeating bias is what I tend to engage in. When I succeed, I go, oh, I got lucky. Anybody could have done that. So I just like, oh, well, it's the world. Something about the world. It's nothing to do with Tim. I just like don't even think about that. But when I fail, I go, yep, I told you, see, I'm a bad person. It's either I didn't try hard enough right here, I better get a different color pen, or there's something about my ability that there's something wrong with me. Now, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's going to make you feel bad about yourself because failures are me and successes are luck in the world. And depressed people tend to do this. This is what the Buddha says. We are what we think. I have to control what I put in my head. I can't just, like Joel Osteen says, wake up in the morning and put my head on autopilot. It's like just driving down the street in your car without no steering wheel. It's like you've got to steer the car. Same thing. And so James Allen, if you don't like the Buddhist stuff, this is from Christian theology, as a man thinketh. Just as a gardener cultivates his plot, you should cultivate your head, your mind, weed out all the wrong, useless, impure thoughts. All that Tim is a piece of shit crap needs to go, Tim. And just only focus on the good things. This is why I love Joel Osteen. You know what I mean? He focuses on this, but you might not love him as much as Tim. I have this analogy. If your mind is like a garden, I have this dirt right here, and it's fertile. I used to think if bad thoughts come in my head, it's like I'm demonic. It's like, no, weeds grow in the dirt. Is the dirt luciferic? It's not. It's fertile. But I can pull a weed out faster or just let it grow and fester. Now, if it grows and festers, then it becomes a problem. So what I thought of is that thoughts are like seeds that I put into my head. At first, it's just a little seed and I can get it out of there. But if I let it fester and it's a dark thought, it's going to get real weedy and hard to get out of there. I don't know if you've been in Arizona where you forgot to pull your weeds and all of a sudden the taproot is like 3 feet down there and you can't get it out, right? But if I focused in, see, I'd spend too much time watering the weeds, and I'm talking about marijuana, the wrong kind of weeds, you know what I mean? And like instead of watering the fruit, the good things, that Tim is good and God has good plans for Tim. This is what I should be watering. It's going to get bigger and bigger. Second analogy goes back to meditation, what I focus on. What you focus on is meditation. You know what I mean? Concentrated meditation. I was listening to this Buddhist monk one time, and they said that your mind's like a train station. And there's all these trains that come through your head, but you don't have to get on every one. It's like, what do you mean? I have to get on every thought that comes in my head? The thoughts are trains. It's like, no, and if you don't get on it, it'll stop coming around so much. It'll still come around every so often. You mean every morning when the Tim is a piece of shit train rolls up, I don't have to get on it? Yes, that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And it's like, I have to really take this into account because I think if a thought is in my head, I am duty bound to think it. It's like, no, that's the seed that you're putting the water on, Tim. Okay, get off that train. Okay, I don't know if you know these two books, The Secret. The Secret's not a secret. It's what I've just told you. It's the law of attraction. The same thing here. Whatever you think will start to come true. You know, it's not like you're completely a magician, but in a way, this is the new age idea. You're not in my religion class. That what kind of thoughts you have in your head, you will start to manifest in the world. One of the best analogies I've ever heard is this. If you're an angry person, there's going to be an asshole around every corner. You know what I mean? You'll manifest that. Okay, so if you're a happy person, you're going to manifest a good. I call it mental nutrition, sometimes spiritual nutrition. If I go to the doctor and I say I have a stomach ache, the doctor's going to say, well, what have you been feeding yourself, Tim? And I'm going to go, this is what I eat every day, right here. You see if I have it on here. Yes, every day. This is what I have for lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And he's going, Tim, you can't put that in your body every single day. It's like, well, this is what I like. It tastes good. It's like, yeah, but that's not nutrition completely. Yeah, it is in a way, but you can't eat an In-N-Out burger every fucking day. You know what I mean? So maybe you mix in this and have some of both, right? And if I think about my head, people no more pay attention to what they put in their head than the man on the moon. Maybe you do. I shouldn't speak for you. But see, I just put all this kind of crap in my head. And then if I go to the head doctor, the psychologist, they never ask me what have I been feeding my head. Oh, I just watch Quentin Tarantino all day. You know what I mean? Like, what do? Play violent video games? I love them. You know what I mean? But if I just focus especially on resentment, fear, and despair, this is where I'm at right now. It's like, no, that's no bueno. You can go there sometimes because it tastes good. Video games, television, that tastes good like an In-N-Out burger. But your shit needs to be in some scripture. Tim, and I do love scripture. I've gotten to where I crave it. I used to think this was gay to be over here, but especially here, I don't focus on this enough. And this is what I'm here to tell you. This is the fucking secret of life. Which side are you going to go? Because whatever you feed your head will become truth. That's it. I don't do it, but I know it. This is what every New Age theologian basically preaches. Okay, here he is, Don Miguel Ruiz. You can see his name right up here. You have to read something by him. It's so easy to read, but this is The Voice of Knowledge, one of his books. I love The Voice of Knowledge, The Four Agreements, The Fifth Agreement, The Mastery of Love. I could go on and on and on about different ones that he has, but I'm going to talk a little bit about this one. Why? It's because what you feed your dogs, right? Which dog are you feeding? What you feed your head? All this stuff. And so he says the voice of knowledge can also be called the liar who lives in your head. Do you have a liar that lives in your head? Fuck the liar. It's like the liar speaks in your language, but has an agenda. You know what the truth is. You really know who you are deep down inside, that you're a child of God, that you're good. That's why I love Mr. Rogers. You really know it, but the voice of the liar is stronger and louder, and it hooks your attention almost all the time. You know what it's telling you? It's telling you this bullshit down here. Look at you. Who do you think you are? You'll never make it. You're not smart enough. Why should you even try? I hope you don't have that fucking voice in your head, but I think every human being has it in their head. It's the matote that he talks about. It's the liar. It's the demon. And when the demon, the liar, comes to you, because this voice is lying. Why is it lying? Because you've learned so many untruths about yourself. That I don't like you just the way you are. That you need to be bigger, stronger, richer, faster, this, that, or the other. And I have a little devil over here, but you can barely see his two little horns right here. And that's the accuser of the brethren. You are perfectly fine. You don't have to be Judeo-Christian like me, but you're perfectly fine. You don't have to do anything to be redeemed. You're 100% just fine. The last therapeutic approach is the biomedical approach. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this because it involves. And so basically, it goes back to this idea that Hippocrates started, that the psychological disorders involve chemical imbalances. I 100% believe in that. There's something off with me. That's why every time people go, oh, just think a happy thought, it's like that doesn't give me more serotonin. In a way, it does, I guess, and dopamine, but you got to have some more powerful juju for what I got going on. You know what I mean? That's why I love Joker when he's in the therapist's office and said, don't you have anything else? And they go, you're already on 7 different things. And he says, I just don't want to feel bad anymore. Just feeling bad, not thinking bad. Okay, so surgery, I mentioned this, are drugs. I want to talk about pharmaceutical drugs for the whole time. Okay, so for the test, you just have these 4 categories. These are the categories. Don't have to write them down yet, but if you think about them, it's easy to know this treats bipolar, easy. This treats anxiety, easy. This treats depression, easy peasy. It says it right in the title. This treats schizophrenia, okay, because psychotic, it was you're out of touch with reality. So those were the first to come on the market, and we'll start going into the more recent ones. Okay, so the idea I have over here, don't forget that all these drugs usually affect how the neurotransmitters are released, stay in the gap, cross the gap, how many cross the gap, whatever. You remember the synapse, I hope. That's why I taught about it. If I'm depressed, the idea is if I take an antidepressant, I will come over here. No antidepressant ever makes me come over here. This is why I use marijuana. A sativa makes me come over here. Sorry, guys, it just does. Okay, enough about that. Now, if I'm very anxious, I guarantee if you take an anxiolytic, it will calm your ass down. You take an Ativan or Valium, they work too good. That's why I don't like them. They feel like drugs to me. It's like I don't want to have that. But the assumption is you don't want to be anxious or depressed. But I have a problem because I have depression and anxiety. Which way do I go right here? And so some of the newer drugs try to keep you in the middle right here. I don't know how good. Okay, antipsychotics, the first category, they work on schizophrenia. I think I have it right here. And so the idea is that you have too much dopamine. I don't know if you remember when I talked about cocaine or crystal meth, but you start binging on crystal meth for 2 or 3 days and get all skitzed out and start hearing and seeing things. So if too much dopamine, which crystal meth works on, you tweak on that, can cause you to be schizophrenic, then that's inducing schizophrenia. Then maybe too much dopamine is what these people have. I think it was 1955. You don't have to remember that, but the first psychological drug to hit the market was Thorazine shuffle. Haldon came over. But as far as the test, these 2 fit in that category, and these 2 both work on dopamine. They lower your dopamine so that you're less tweaked out. Hopefully that makes sense. So for the test, if I ask you, know these 2 drugs, that they go here, antipsychotics, and they work on dopamine. I hope I didn't confuse everybody with my replay. So antidepressants, category number 2 that I struggle with the most. The SSRIs are what most people are on, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. They don't give you more serotonin. What they do is try to keep the serotonin over here in the gap longer. And if it keeps in the gap longer, it's going to activate the keyholes over here. And most likely this one is going to fire more often, if that makes sense. So Prozac, Zoloft, Paxil, Effexor, I'm on Lexapro, small dose. Here's Prozac right here. But if I ask you these 4, they go here for the test. And they work on, again, serotonin. Here's my problem. When I go to the doctor and say I'm depressed, they don't even check. If I went to the doctor and said I have a broken arm, they would check, right? They don't even check if I have depression, anxiety, or I don't even know I have both, or combo, or 70-30. Second thing is they'll just put me on, like, let's say a little bit of Prozac, and then it doesn't start working out. Well, let's trade you to Zoloft. Now let's trade you to this one and this one and this one. It's like, dude, you don't even know what you're doing. The last time I went to my psychiatrist, I said, dude, have you ever taken one? He goes, no. I was like, well, that's like giving people acid and telling them what acid trips are like. I said it right to him, and he was like, ah. It's like, yeah, but it's true. You make millions of dollars doing this, and you've never even taken one. And I have to be taking them for decades, and I don't feel good because they do not make me have more energy and joie de vivre. That's my whole soapbox. I could go off forever about antidepressants, and talk about why I use medical marijuana in combination. Okay, so anti-anxiety drugs. These do work, but the benzos are dangerous. They're very addictive. My ex-wife, Wendy, she takes Ativan every day. She'll never be able to get off of them. Now for 30 years she's been on them. She can't get off of them or she had to go to the mental institute. I'm not kidding either. I love Winnie to death too. So they work like alcohol does. CNS depressants, GABA, they give you a lot of GABA. I'm on gabapentin at nighttime, gabapentin. So GABA you can get in like Valium, Xanax, Librium. Here's a Valium right here. That's why I don't like them, dude. It's like, I like them. That's why I don't. You know what I mean? And so that's the anti-anxiety drugs. Keep in mind these three. I think I have three, and they work on GABA over here. So GABA's right over here. Okay. Our last category, I think, is bipolar drugs. It says it right in the title, but I like manic depression as the title of bipolar because it makes more sense what it is. Manic depression is a frustrating mess. And so lithium is one of the oldest, drugs around, and it's just a salt on the periodic table, and lithium will balance people out, but mostly on their depression, bring them up a little bit. And so what I know a little bit about is it alters glutamate. I'm not going to ask you this on the test. Glutamate has a lot to do with the threshold of excitation. And think about this. Either the threshold is too hair triggery and I get manic, or it's too lethargic and I get depressed. And so glutamate is kind of like balanced out with lithium, then the threshold is okay and you don't get too hair triggery or too lethargic on either end. I don't know if I just made sense, but hopefully this lecture was good. I'll try to do a better job next time. If you have any questions or need me to clear anything up, give me a call or an email. I'll see you next time.